Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Radical Love with Ains and Lex.
I'm Ains.
And I'm Lex. And today we're continuing with our Sermon on the Mount series. We're just going to keep going through Matthew 7. It's a journey.
We love it. Also, we had some difficulties of the technical variety with our episodes. So if you haven't heard our first Sermon on the Mount episode that was supposed to come out a few weeks ago, well, now you can listen to them both back to back.
All at once. Like, this is perfect. You can, you don't have to wait for the next one. You just boom.
They're right there. Right there. So it was like Rad Love Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. We had to put out a lot. And
we did. So. Yes.
Yeah, now we got it.
Oh, so fun. Thank you for remembering that, Ains. But as we always do, Rosebud Thorn first. So Ains, you want to start us off?
Sure. So, my rose, I'll start with the rose. Today, the weather is like beautiful. It was fine, kind of cloudy this morning. I have class in the same building for like 3.5, no, from 2 to 4:45. So that can't be right. Yeah, that's not 3.5 hours. That's 2 hours and 45 minutes. Sorry, my brain
close enough.
Not functioning. But I have class in there for a long time, and so I didn't go outside. And then when I left the building, it was all of a sudden 65 degrees and sunny, and I was like, "Woohoo! This is awesome!" So that was really exciting. And yeah, good weather just always makes the vibes great. And there's like people playing music out on North Quad, which you can't hear, but it just makes the vibe so good. It's Thursday, which is like cool. And also this is connected to what we're talking about today, so I'm going to bring it up. It's kind of a rose and a thorn. I've been writing this essay that is like a deep analysis of 1 Timothy chapters 2 verses 11 through 15. And for anyone who would like to know what that is, I don't have it pulled up RN, but here I'll it's essentially from what I can remember after writing about this.
How long is this paper?
For a million years. Well, that's actually the funny point. Is it's supposed to be 2,000 to 2,500 words, which is like not very long. Like 6 pages is like
that's a lot to write on 4 verses.
No, it's not. Mine right now is like 9 pages
on 4 verses.
Yeah, it's
what?
Well, my computer's actually just not responding right now, so you'll never know what the passage is, but I can give you the approximate version right now. Okay. A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over a man. For Adam was not this is the part where I get a little murky, is the Adam and Eve part, but it's something like Adam was not deceived, but Eve was formed out of Adam, and she was deceived, she transgressed. I don't know, that verse right there is very murky. And then it's, but she will be saved through childbearing if they continue. Oh geez, you can tell which parts I talked about the most because I remember verses 11, 12 and 15 very well, and then stuff elsewhere I don't really remember. And then saying but she will be saved through childbearing if they continue with faith, modesty, and piety. I don't know if any of that is really accurate.
More than I know off the top of my head.
I know a lot, but yeah, but anyways, it's been actually really fun to do my research because obviously, well, not obviously, but I guess kind of obviously, if you've ever listened and you know anything about me, I listen to that passage and I'm like, you know, problems with being like a woman in the 21st century, going to college, planning on being, girl boss moment. Well, actually, I don't really like using that word. I find it a little cringe. In case someone was wondering. But anyways, like I would love to teach and have authority over men and women alike. I mean, I'm not, I just want to be in charge. Which whatever that says about me, you can do your psychoanalysis, another time, listeners. But yeah, so I listened to this and I automatically want to disagree, but I didn't want to be, lazy. And with this essay, I could choose literally anything in the New Testament to write this essay on. And I wanted to do this because I was like, let's dive into something that's actually interesting to me and will be theologically difficult. Like if I was like, why do they use this phrase in the Gospels? Like that could be nice, but I really wanted something that would challenge me. And what I had been doing when I'd read a passage like that in the past would just kind of be dismissing it. And I thought,
Mhm.
you know, that's kind of lazy. It's pretty dishonest and it's not, you know, true to scripture. But then I also think a lot of times people don't really dig if they like want to believe a passage or if they're like, oh, it's scripture, like it's infallible or like it had the infallibility or inerrancy of scripture, you know, depending on where you fall in that. It's like people would be like, oh, it's totally correct and this is why. But I think there's kind of like a happy middle ground, or at least it's kind of what I argued in my essay of like, you don't need to look at this English translation and say, yep, that's exactly it. That's universally applied. Women should not have authority positions because of this passage. But then I also don't think I can discredit something just because I don't like it and because, you know, the cultural attitude towards women has shifted. So that's been really fun, actually, which I didn't think it
Yeah.
would be, but it's honestly been like a blast to write. But the problem is my time management skills have been like totally booty buttness this whole week. So I like just have not been sleeping. Because I just talk to people and I'm having like fun during the day. And then like I start my homework really late, like
Oh.
like
Oh gosh.
last night I like resumed my essay writing at like 11:45. Yeah, and then I stayed working on it till 2, but then I just got kind of too tired to like do anything productive with it. So then I just woke up at 7. Did
Okay,
some
5 hours. I feel like that's what I get.
in the morning. Really? What are you doing? That you need. This is not a regular occurrence for me, girl. You need to sleep more. 5 hours.
I know I need to
That's
sleep more.
horrible.
It's that okay, between 5 and 7. I'll say that. Because I wake up really
5 on the
early.
regular.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, never mind. I thought I wasn't getting very much sleep, but that sounds like this is definitely a regular. I would say normally I'm at a solid 7. 8, comment down below. 8 hours makes me feel groggy, like 7.5 to 7.
Really?
Like that is a way better range for me than 8. 8 for whatever reason just doesn't really work.
That's funny.
Anyways, and then so that's kind of been good and bad because I'm so tired. But also I'm having great time, you know, great chats,
Yeah.
community. Dun, 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 dun. It's almost over. But then my bud this weekend's gonna be a blast. So Saturday is the blue and gold game, which is like a scrimmage for the football team. But before that is this thing called Pigtostal. And do I know what it is? Absolutely not. But apparently it's like this huge tradition darty thing at Notre Dame. It's like the biggest darty of the year. And I have honestly no idea what to expect. I don't know why it's called Pigtostal. Will there be pigs? Not sure. I'll inform you later. I think traditionally there have been. Like I didn't know if I really wanted to go because I was like, what is this? But then I Googled it and there were like in our newspaper articles from like years ago, people saying like Pigtostal is Notre Dame's biggest thing. And I was like, party thing.
Now you
I
have
was like,
to go.
oh, then I definitely have to go, especially if this is perhaps my last spring on campus, which is really crazy. So I've been having a lot of like existential crisis because all the seniors are like, oh, it's my last this, my last that. And I was like, what if it's my last this and my last that too? So anyways,
Yeah.
so that'll be a blast. And then the game is that afternoon. And then that night is GGL formal.
Oh.
So that's like all the philosophy dialogue leaders. So I think there's like 50 of us. I don't know. We're going to like this mansion in South Bend, this like historic mansion. Yeah, so I'm super excited. Yeah, I think that'll be like the most fun day ever.
Yeah.
And I've written in my planner, out of commission, no homework today. So I'm not even gonna try to get up half an hour early and do a little bit of this. No.
Kudos
none of that
to
happening.
you.
None of that happening on Saturday. So
that'll also be needed like with finals, like just a day to like not think about it and recover and yeah.
No, I'm super excited.
Oh, so good. I'm so proud of you.
How about you after I talked for like a bajillion years?
Mine, okay. So my Rose got to see AJ. That was really nice. And then when we came back for Easter, it was like the sweetest time because like my worlds were colliding. Like 2 of my roommates came up and got to spend Easter with me and my parents and my grandparents and my aunt and uncle and my little cousins. And it was just like the sweetest time ever. It was absolutely hilarious because we were all joking around. Molly and Caroline, they were like, we're not showing any mercy on your little cousins in the Easter egg hunt. And then my dad decided to hide eggs specifically for us three. They were impossible. They were so difficult. Like he made it his mission to make them difficult. Like one of them was in the sewer. It was like he went all out. Like we were embarrassed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
King.
It was. Yeah. And then it was his birthday yesterday, so I went up and surprised him. That was a blast. I love surprising people. It's really become something just like, so last week my mom had told me that he was like, is Lexi gonna come up for my birthday? And once I heard that, I was like, my mom and I were like, there's no way I can come up. Like it just logistically it doesn't work. But like in my heart, like I cannot disappoint him. And like the fact that he wanted me there so badly, like I made it work. And his face was priceless. Yeah. And then y'all, this is like 2 months coming. Okay. Who remembers, if you know you've been here for a while, my goal was to get a pull-up. Well, I did my first pull-up yesterday. And it was so unintentional because Caroline happened to be in the gym at the same time. And something came up and I was like, oh my gosh, on TikTok, I saw this hack. They just said like, instead of like thinking about like pulling yourself up, like think about like pulling your elbows down. And I was like, that's hilarious. Like whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'll just try it. I had zero confidence in myself and somehow I managed to do it. And it was the best feeling in the whole world.
Woo! Proud.
My thorn, I would just say like life is crazy. Like crazy in a good way. Like the thorns, like it's not like
you're
really
getting
bad.
5 hours of sleep a night. Something's up.
Yeah, just like school, finals, realized that I don't have any more weekends at my apartment. And I didn't know, like you said, I didn't know when the last one was going to be. But also like I'm not like super mad about it because I'm so excited for St. Louis and like I'm excited to be with my dogs. But like my room, y'all, I made my bed, but the rest of it is a disaster. And that's like not like me at all. But then my bud, I'm so ready for school to be over. And I'm so excited to snuggle with my dogs this weekend.
Hype. Absolutely hype.
Yeah, but nothing else like super, super big is on the agenda. So
yeah. I also had a nice Easter. I feel bad for like slighting my family.
I feel like it was nice so long ago.
Oh my gosh. And I met my sister's boyfriend.
Oh my gosh.
I had a layover in Atlanta. So he like picked her up and then they were like, you should stay for a day. And I was like, no, I really need to do my homework.
Yeah.
So I didn't, but he took us out to lunch and it was like,
that's so
it's
sweet.
his birthday today. Happy birthday, Suraj. Yeah, so that was fun.
Oh my gosh, when do I need to still actually I did meet him. I met him before you met him in the parking lot.
That's he was exactly how he acted on FaceTime. It didn't really feel like I'd never met him before because we talked, and I just committed yesterday. I'm going to Wyoming for a week in the beginning of August. So I'm super stoked.
What? When did that happen?
Yesterday. It's like this program that a woman at Notre Dame started. It's called Wonder. It's about like instilling wonder and beauty back into the lives and hearts of young adults. So there's a group going, just like 10 students from Notre Dame. And then funnily enough, one of my professors is going with us. So we talked about it. He and I did like in opposite hours because I talked about Wonder and he was like, funny, you should mention that. Here's this program. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. It's kind of on the fence. And then I called my mom and I was like, Mom. And she was like, you should do it. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then yesterday, I put down the deposit and I'm going, which is really exciting. Yeah. So it's just like 10 people and we're backpacking and then climbing one day and rafting another.
That is so you. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. And I know 2 of the people going and I like them. So I hope everyone else is cool too. Yeah. Sorry guys. I don't mean to. I just forgot about that. We're talking about buds. There's so many things that happen in our lives. Just saying one good, one bad. And
it's really
thing you're looking forward to takes a lot of self-control that I obviously don't have.
No, I think it's fun. That was such a good update. Okay. This has been, final season sucks, but it's been, we still have good things going on in our lives.
Also, poll, which is worse, finals or midterms?
Yeah, we both agree on midterms.
midterms because you still have
Mhm.
class, you still have club
Mhm.
meetings, you still have
Mhm.
assignment, like you still have other things and the finals.
Oh yeah.
Whereas finals week is low key a breeze because you just have one test a day or two tests a day maybe, and then you relax and you study for your next one, and like you can sleep in, you can go to bed
Yes,
early,
there's no
like you have
schedule.
so
Mhm.
much time.
Mhm. Mhm. I
Whereas
agree.
midterms, you're like, oh, sorry, you have to go to class for 5 hours and then take the exam. Haha,
It's brutal. It's
too much.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the worst. Okay. Are you ready?
So the passage.
No, this is gonna be good. Okay, so now we're continuing down. There's two different like sections from Sermon on the Mount. So, you guys, if you haven't listened to the first one, this is now like pause, go back to the first one,
Do it.
and then come back. But like we talked about last time, every translation like pulls out different subheadings, which is just so interesting to me. So for the ESV translation, which I read, the one was ask and it will be given, and the other subheading was the golden rule. But for NIV, it's ask, seek, knock, and then the narrow and wide gates. So like it takes the emphasis off of the golden rule, which is very interesting to me. Ains, do you want to read the passage for us? Because you did
Oh my
last time.
gosh. So this is Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 14. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you, then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it.
So good. Okay. I like it. The first thing, like after I wrote this down, it was funny because I wrote this question, and then when Ains put her response in, it was like also my response, which is like I have no idea. But it's so interesting to me. Like I would like someone to truthfully tell me, like why the different translations choose to focus on different things, because for me, like the golden rule makes so much sense to focus on because it's like such an important thing that we look at, like, and that I feel like is like instilled in everyone from like such a young age, even people that aren't Christian. Like the golden rule is just something that like people live by.
Right.
But then even like focusing on verses 13 and 14 and making them the narrow and wide gates, like that's also something that's so important. So like I just truthfully don't know why they separate it differently.
I also don't know. So that's everyone go do your research and we'll do ours, I guess. Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell ya. Could not tell ya.
The only thing I thought of potentially would be like, I know when we studied the Gospels in high school, there was a high emphasis on like each author was writing to a different audience. So that's why like there were different focuses on like Jesus's life or like the miracles. Some were more like happy and whatnot. So like that's what I thought of off the bat, but then it's not like each translation was necessarily, I don't know. I feel like you'd know more. Was each translation meant for different people? Maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, I would guess so because like the Ching games, the King James version is mostly just. I'm pretty sure that's only used like within like Protestant
Okay.
circles. Circles. I don't know why I use that. Like I'm pretty sure it's only used by Protestants.
Yeah.
Like frick, I don't know. I think just like people tend to use different versions, and then maybe people translate them differently. I honestly don't know. Maybe because I'm sure a little bit though, because like as people are making new translations, they're doing it for a reason, right?
It's true.
So
Yeah.
they probably
yeah.
have some sort of like vibe.
Yeah.
There's some reason that they're undertaking.
Yeah. Is there a certain version, whether it be like these two versions when you look at Sermon on the Mount, or just like in general, what translation do you go for?
So at school, we always use the New Revised Standard Version, or
Okay.
NRSV. So
Okay.
that's, at least in the US, that's like the number one that's used for like scholarly purposes. I'm pretty sure, like especially for Catholics. But what I've learned in my little essay is that any English version, I just need to learn Greek if I want to if I want to read the New Testament the right way. Because they're all gonna be lacking, which kind of like is unfortunate. Because like, for example, in the passage that I'm doing my essay on, so it says like a woman should not have authority over a man, and or I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over a man. Whatever, you know what I mean. The word for authority, though, is this word. This is the only time it's used in the New Testament, and it's a special word for authority that carries this like negative connotation of like bad, tyrannical, or usurping authority. And that's something that is totally missed in the English translation, and it's something you definitely lose because there's no sort of like translation of connotation. You know, it's like, here's what the word literally means. There you go.
Right.
And so
that's
I don't know. One of my professors last semester was talking about, you know, God stepped down, not just in the form of a human, but like God allowed his word to be interpreted and translated and like totally botched. And like that was a form of sacrifice that God did for humanity and for the salvation of all that we like overlook. You know, obviously we focus on Jesus because you know, you should. But I thought that was really interesting when he was talking about how that is also like a huge sacrifice. Because it's so confusing. I don't know why there's so many different versions. Say all these different things. I guess you get the general gist though, whichever you do.
Yeah. That's the same way like I am. I think I read the ESV, like English Standard Version, just because I think it's like easiest for me to read. But I do have a translation of the Bible that I really like, but I don't think it's like on the Bible app or anything. It's the She Lives Truth Bible. And I really like that one because it's very like young women focused. So I do like the language in that one. But I just like, I'm at such like a standstill because I love that the one focuses on the golden rule, but then I also love verses 13 and 14. And so I'm like, I don't think I could decide. So why don't they make one that just splits both? Why can't we have both?
I also think the headings can be very distracting. Like the fact that we're having this conversation right now, like the passage, I'm just reading this passage, and when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, we could have an entire episode about that one line. We have an entire episode about that. Like it just goes by so fast. And when they have the headings, okay, this section is ask, seek, knock. But it covers it covers so much that's not just about ask, seek, knock. And so yeah, I think they can kind of limit you because you kind of read for what you're expecting. So I try to just ignore them. But then also sometimes I don't really know what they're talking about, so I have to go back.
That's fair. What do you take away most from this passage?
Dude, honestly, there's so much. I think though, for the sake of time, I think the golden rule, like you have in the notes, I mean, it's just key, right? I mean, it's huge, massive. Ask, seek, knock. I mean, obviously, I hate to like just go over that. And also, like, you give good gifts to your children and think of how great the gifts God will give to his children. You know, I hate to skip over all that, but we're just gonna have to. So maybe we'll do a series part 2 where we talk about the passages, like the verses we had to skip.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think is really cool about this is there's in Christianity, just like by the sheer, like just by like history of how we have approached Jesus, there's been this false understanding of Jesus as being like anti-Jewish and like he upsets all these religious people and he's not religious. And he there's just like a lot of anti-Semitism that has kind of been underlying a lot of like scholarly debates about like the New Testament, or even just like I remember, I mean, I don't know how much this affected me growing up, but I knew very well that it was like the Jewish religious leaders that crucified Jesus. Like I remember that. I remember it's all these hypocrites
Mhm.
and everyone's hypocrites and the Jewish leaders sucked and the Jewish like religion was totally horrible at the time.
Yeah.
But I think that's obviously like totally not historically accurate to Jesus. And that's something I kind of like about this verse 12 is gives a golden rule, which everyone's like, yeah, golden rule. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's just has obvious wisdom throughout it. But then it says, for this sums up the law and the prophets. And I just like how kind of brings a little reminder of like Jesus is very Jewish.
Mhm.
And is like not like I don't know. I think that's like a fun little thing that is added that I normally don't think about with the golden rule.
Mhm.
But also it's just great. And this is totally not biblical, but someone said this to me like a year ago or something, and I thought it was really interesting. But they were like, don't just treat others the way you want to be treated, but like treat others the way they want to be treated. As I said,
Ooh.
totally not biblical, but it's definitely made me think a bit more like this.
Mhm.
I would like this in this situation. Like I would prefer tough love. I would prefer someone just to listen to me. I would want someone to give me a hug, but and having an emotional IQ and being able to like pick up on the situation, I think just takes a different level of awareness. But either way, obviously, like you don't have to change the golden rule to emphasize social awareness. Like I just thought that was kind of an interesting little thought. But yeah, overall, it's just great. I mean, you'll probably be able to say more. For whatever reason, I'm the least eloquent person right now, but I
Oh
think
my
it's
gosh,
great.
stop.
Love the golden rule. It's golden.
No, I mean, I do too. I love the word like used of awareness because I feel like that's like the season I'm in with the golden rule. Like that sounds so weird, but like I've heard it so many times. Like half the time it goes in
Right.
one ear and out the other. Like
Right.
like we're just told like that's how you should treat people. Be nice, whatever.
Mhm.
But like I've had to stop and think so much recently. And I think it's because of some of the episodes we've done, like when we talked about like not judging others and like diving into gossip and like all these things. And like with the study, there's been so many times where I've like, when I think of this passage now, like obviously I understand I need to be nice to others, but what comes to me is like just over and over, like, who am I to judge? Who am I to like decide like what justice is for someone? Like that was with like the why social justice isn't biblical justice. That like was all throughout that book. And like holding grudges. And I don't know, maybe it's just like the way like college has been the last few months. But that is just like really what comes to my mind. And it's nothing that's like happened in my life. I feel like it's just from me, like kind of like taking a step back and like seeing what's going on like with other people. I feel like my life has been very like boring, which we talked about this earlier. Like it's not a bad thing. Like not mad about it.
Don't mind it. Yeah.
So just like seeing like what has really hurt other people around me has made me understand more of like why, like just the awareness I feel like is just so important. Like you said, with the golden rule. And I don't know, there's just been so many times recently. I can't even like pinpoint the situations. I don't remember the situations exactly, but this came up a few days ago. I remember being in a class and I like was talking with someone and then I was like, wait, I can't be the one to say that. Like, I cannot be the one to talk trash because like XYZ, And so just kind of like refocusing the way I am. And like it's not easy to not like judge because I feel like that's like a first instinct or to compare. Like that's one of the things, like comparing grades and comparing all of these things. That's like first mindset.
Well, even better that you've kind of like had these realizations and learned these lessons without having to go through.
True.
Like,
Yeah,
even
true.
better, no complaints, like able to learn that and figure that out without having to like learn it the hard way.
Yeah. I've had to learn the hard way in other situations, but I'm thankful that
not this time.
That this ain't one of them. Yeah. No. But yeah. So again, it's just a classic. I mean, what else? can we say about it? But I do remember, Ains, you saying, I think it was before we did the first part to Sermon on the Mount. You said that you loved the verses about the narrow and wide passage. And that was something that I had never before, like that was something that had never jumped out to me before. So I was just like so intrigued.
Yeah. So yeah, narrow and wide gates. First off, the first thing I think about whenever, actually, no, that's totally irrelevant to this. I'll say that later as like a fun fact. Yeah, I mean, enter through the narrow gate. I think the part that's kind of difficult for me is like the setting I'm in a lot of times. So I would say I often feel like I have two categories of friends. The
Okay.
ones that compared to them, I'm like not Catholic at all. And then the ones
Mm.
who compared to them, I'm scared I'm like too religious. So I
Wow.
try to just like do my thing. But sometimes that can be like, honestly, it's been really difficult for me in my spiritual journey and like not being afraid of faith. And oddly enough, I'm like more comfortable about like talking about it and stuff in the circles where I feel like they're not super active in their faith or very Catholic, because I get really insecure, which is honestly like really disappointing. I'm trying to work on that. But I just feel sometimes like, oh, am I saying something that's like wrong and I don't know? I'm always really nervous about that. Or do I like yesterday I was at adoration and my friend, they were like singing this song in Latin and he knew all the words. And I was like, how do you know the words? Like, I go to adoration every once in a while. I never like, I don't know what you're doing. And so sometimes I just feel kind of like a noob. So
that's funny because that was in my info systems class, like literally an IT class. One of the vocab words was noob.
Is noob.
Yeah.
Nice.
In like the IT setting. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Well, probably a different kind of noob then. This is the cringe noob. But yeah, so that's kind of made my like reading of this passage a little different throughout the years and as I've grown and gone to different settings, whatever. But I think it really, for me, is less about the how many people enter through each gate versus how much more difficult it is. And because I think like I've talked about this before on the podcast. I think a lot of times like Christian, Catholic, faith-based influencers can really talk about a lot like how the world's going to reject you and how being a Christian is like totally against the culture. And I think in some ways it is, but I also think, at least in my experience, like I've always been a very confident person. I'm really lucky for that, but I've never really faced a lot of backlash when I say I'm not going to do this or I am going to do this. Mostly because I don't care. Like if you were to be like, oh, you're going to church tomorrow, I'd be like, what's your problem? Like, yeah. But then also, as I just said, I have a lot of friends who go to daily mass every day. So I'm in a definitely an interesting position here. But yeah, I just really like think about, I mean, it's difficult and it's so easy to justify bad decisions. And that I think is something that takes like so much self-awareness, so much maturity, and like definitely is something I'm like not really good at as a 19-year-old, which, you know, it's nice to remember that I'm like a child and, you know, I'm still working on all these skills and I'm going to change so much probably in the next year. Like I just did this past year. But like, I think it really is easy to be like, oh, I'm doing this and it's not a problem. Like, I actually don't think it's actually bad. And I think, you know, the church teaches this, but actually I'm just gonna disagree. And I'm just gonna think that it's not a problem. And you can just continue on because it's so easy to justify. And so I think that's why the road is so narrow and the gate is so small, because it takes like this true, honest, God-centered reflection to be like, straight up, this is what I need to be doing, or this is what I don't need to be doing. And living a Christian life doesn't mean I have to hate the culture and be like, this world is so doomed, and like I don't have to be talking about how bad things are. I don't need to be talking about how great things are. Like I think it just is a really big challenge that is so easy to overlook. I'm thinking of very specific things right now, but just like the classic, like drinking, drugs, and sex, for example. Like those are all super justifiable but like what you're supposed to do according to either the Bible or the
Right.
Catholic
It's black
faith
and white.
is
Mhm.
very, very clear. So I think that one, I mean, that's just something that I've really been struggling with recently. And then I'm like, well, my intent, or like it was a different time in history. There's a million and five
Yeah.
ways to justify your behavior. So I think you just have to like listen to what you think you should be doing, because I think said it again. I said it once, I'll say it again. I think like deep down, I think we all kind of
Yes.
know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, really like that spin you put on it because, yeah, like you said, influencers like to say like Christianity, it's like Christianity against the world.
And it can be. I don't want to like
can be,
discredit,
right,
because that
right.
it definitely is real
but
for a
not
lot of
like
people.
in our own personal lives.
Right.
But I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, we're saying Christianity is hard because, like, yeah, it might not be because I'm getting all this backlash in my daily life, but it's just like it's hard to live strictly by scripture. Like you said, like drinking, drugs, sex, like, you know,
those are just, we're in college, babies, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay?
right?
Like that's what we're talking about.
But it's just like so hard because there's so many temptations in our daily life. And that's why it is hard to be a Christian, because there's so like you have to consciously every day, like to make it through that narrow gate, like you have to consciously make decisions that like aren't as fun or aren't as easy or aren't as this. And people tell you that that's not the fun life. But the people that tell you that it isn't the fun life, sometimes they're really lonely because, the partying doesn't, equate to anything. Sometimes they may love their life, like you just never know. But when I've been thinking about this, like I've been thinking about it in regards to like Christianity. And I don't know why it like doesn't really fit in, but it's been very applicable to my life recently. Is I guess with Christianity, like I feel like I've been, like you said, like there are these people that I'm around and I feel like I'm doing so much less than them. And so I had like a real like deep talk with Evan. Again, everything happens on runs. I was running while we were talking. Well, so was he.
Run,
so was
power,
he. So was he.
Power.
But I was like, I just feel like I have zero place on the podcast to like talk, because I am now reading through scripture and like I don't know these things. Like I don't know all these connections. Other people know these connections. Like why?
Some people,
right?
Where did they learn it?
Right?
Did their mom read it to them in the womb? Like did they memorize it? Like yeah, I'm so with you.
And then all of a sudden I was just thinking about like all of these like Christian influencers that I follow, and I'm like, they know this, and that. Like they can, go out and like put these really long, captions and pictures. Like they can do this every single day consistently. And like, I don't know. And for some reason in my head, that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, they know it all, whatever. And he was like, Lexi, like the whole reason you and Ains do the podcast is because like you are Christian, but you guys are relatable. And like, that was like what you started it on. And I was like, okay, right.
Exactly. Like that is totally our brand though, is we're straight up and we're like, I think this is what it means right now.
We don't know.
I don't know. Like, am I being heretical? I hope not. Like, I don't know. Right. Yeah, I know. It is hard though, because also one of my teachers, it was a meme. He was like making fun of Christian podcasters.
Oh my gosh.
Because he was like talking about, I don't remember what. It made sense in the context. He's really funny, really, really like so kind. So it was just like for fun, totally kind-hearted. But I was like, the dramatic irony right now. Like, because all my friends were looking at me and like cracking up, and I was like, But yeah, I think that's the nice stance we take though, because we don't say like we know truth. This is the absolute interpretation. We're totally along for the ride.
Because we're literally learning every day, and something that I say on the podcast my feelings on it might change in 2 weeks, but I'll tell you if they do change. I'll tell you if I have a change of heart.
What's gonna happen in 2 weeks?
Nothing. I'm just saying, like I could say
is
something.
That like hypothetical?
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying like we could be doing this, and then I could read Sermon on the Mount again, and then be like, oh wait.
It happens every time. An episode I distinctly remember this happening with for me was like the cancel culture episode. And I was like, I feel like I gave people too much grace because I really think cancel culture is stupid, mostly because it's ineffective. Okay, like talk about like the lead, like it actually just gives people publicity. Like James Charles, I think James
Mhm.
Charles might do things to get canceled on purpose when life gets boring. Like hot take.
Uh-huh.
I actually have I don't know anything about James Charles. No hate. Medium hate. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel here. So,
That's so
but like
funny.
I went so hard on cancel culture. I was like, but also there should be a level of accountability if someone has a
Mhm.
super public platform like
Yeah.
James Charles, for example. I would be more against cancel culture when it's someone doing something in like a Walmart. I'm like,
Mhm.
this is just a normal person who didn't mean to get famous today versus someone who wanted to have a platform. You do have more responsibility and you shouldn't do things that are stupid. Like, you can't make mistakes like a normal person because you've like put yourself in the position to,
Right.
and that totally sucks, but like, you know, sucks for you. I don't know, like
Mhm.
kind of you chose this
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
Where so that's an example. I don't know. Just with
Yeah.
that episode and example for sure. I've had changes of heart and feeling and stuff throughout the
Mhm.
years.
Mhm. Well, even like we have so much growth, like
Yeah,
every
we were
literally month.
16
Yeah.
when we started
What?
this. So
A month.
gosh.
What was it? Like a year ago. I was like, I'm not drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
things change and also, a little hope for the weary. The Rule of Saint Benedict. I had to read it for a class last semester, and it in
Mhm.
the introduction. So it's just kind of like rules for Benedictine monasteries, and it's
Mhm.
I kept it. I really liked reading it, even though it was like totally just instructions and like not great theology. I mean, it
Mhm.
was in some ways, whatever. It was really interesting, but it said in the beginning, that it would be nothing hard, nothing burdensome, and
Mm.
so the like kind of the goal of all these rules, like it was really funny. The rules were low key super lax. So it would be like you can have a half a bottle of wine at dinner and then it would be like, and this is you should have one meat entree. But then if you don't like it, there will be another entree. And it
Oh
was
my
like it was super nice. And it was
god.
like if you're sick, no rules, do whatever. Like it was like a very kind of like approachable way to live in a monastery. And so, I mean, also there were things that were really difficult. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
reason not everyone goes into it. It's not like a glorious life by any means. But I think, it is a narrow gate, but it's also not supposed to be something that like all you're thinking about is how horrible this is. Like, ugh, I wish I could go out. Ugh, I wish I could have a drink. The
Mhm.
point isn't to restrict yourself and hate it. It's to find life and freedom through the new rules you're following and to find like a greater sense of fulfillment. So if you're like, ugh, like keeping all these rules you don't agree with, I think like you really have to figure out what works for you. And like, I know for both of us, like, I don't black out. Like I know that sounds like if there's any adults listening, you're like, oh, obviously, but college kids black out a
College,
lot. Okay.
yeah.
Like everyone's like blacking out. People
Yeah.
will be like, I want to black out tonight. And I'm like, well, what?
Mm-mm,
What?
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Um, but like I also drink and I
Mhm.
think it's hard because this is a time of growth. And I'd rather if I were to have a horrible experience and like totally black out and like be sick and like anything like that, I'd want it to happen like now.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
like I'd rather it not happen at all, but
Right.
it's really difficult because we're at an interesting time.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's really just about like finding it is some restriction, but it's not
Mhm.
like you can't do anything at all. You're not allowed to go
Right.
out. Like you can go out and have a drink or two.
Exactly.
I don't see why that would be a problem. It's all about like not being like unruly and being like the drunks people.
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
it would be in the Bible at least. So I think it's just, you
Right.
know,
And the right intentions. Like if you're going out because
huge.
like every time you have a bad day, you're getting blackout, like or just like I want to go have fun with my friends and
Yeah,
like have a good laugh. Like that is
exactly.
so different.
Mhm.
We need to do
And
another episode on drinking and
yeah,
partying and
when did we do those episodes?
that was like probably a year ago.
Our lives have changed so much.
Mhm.
All these episodes, we could actually just redo all of our
We
episodes
could.
like all the time and never have repeat ourselves. Yeah, I think it's huge. Intention is like major. But that's
Mhm.
also why like what I was saying earlier about how easy it is to justify bad things
Yeah, because
or
we
like
just did.
bad things. But like I honestly don't really think drinking some is bad. I think really intention is huge, but also
Mhm.
I could probably take that way further than I do. I mean, right
Mhm.
now I genuinely feel like I drink very responsibly. I'm always very
Me
safe.
too.
I have like control. I don't like losing control, so that kind of naturally keeps me within like some
Yep.
um
Parameters.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But sometimes you do like I don't know, like it definitely changes. I think the easiest example is sex because it is like so much more like personal almost.
Mhm.
Whereas like drinking, like everyone's doing it or everyone's not doing it. It's just kind of like you can kind of detach yourself from it, but sex
Yeah.
is obviously so like intimate. And I think that one is really tough, like especially what I was saying with like some people being really religious, other people
Mhm.
not being like religious at all.
Mhm.
Some
Mhm.
people, they'll have like totally like hook up with whoever, and then I have friends who won't do like they just nothing ever ever. And so
Mhm.
it's very difficult to like find a
Mhm.
balance in all these things. And do you know if you're saying like, oh, but my intentions are fine, or are you doing
Mhm.
something you shouldn't do? And it's hard. I think like if it's based on intention, only we will know,
That's true.
So
And like we
it's all a
always say,
challenge.
you will know. If
Yeah,
it's
you know,
not
like
right, you're gonna know.
you'll feel it totally, totally. Or if you
Yeah.
like, maybe I shouldn't do this, which that's happened to me for sure. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. Like I'll just try not doing it for a little bit. And then if you're like, oh, that's really hard, you're like, maybe I, shouldn't do it then, or maybe I should do it then. I don't know.
Mhm.
That kind of was I said a lot without saying anything, but maybe you picked up on it. Maybe you didn't, everyone.
I picked up
Hopefully
on it.
you got what I was saying. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, Ains, do you have anything else to leave us with today? We could
Just
have made this like an hour and a half episode.
dude, that's what I'm saying. We go through like one verse each week of Sermon on the Mount, and we
Mhm.
probably would still be like, sorry guys, we didn't get to everything we wanted to
Yeah.
today. Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, golden rule, obviously, it's golden. Like I have actually nothing to add, but narrow and wide gates, yeah, it's difficult,
Mhm.
but it's not bad. Like it's not supposed to be something you dread.
Mhm.
And I think that's like key to making sure your heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I agree. The narrow and the wide gates, like what you said about it goes back to 10 commandments, and like it's not for us to like hate everything, it's to give us more freedom. And it sounds counterintuitive, but
it's real, man.
yeah,
It's real.
word.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to add. I hope you guys have a great day.
Yeah,
Think
y'all.
about your intentions when you're doing something. Are you trying to
Mhm.
justify something you shouldn't have done? Or do you really think that it wasn't bad? Because I'll say right now, like, I don't think my drinking is, like, bad, even if some people might think the fact that I drink at all is
Me
bad.
too. Me too.
Technically, it's illegal, but genuinely, that crosses my mind actually probably 2% of the time. So, sorry, anyone who wasn't aware. Now you know.
Retweet everything she said. So good. Okay, well, we will see y'all next Saturday, and we're gonna continue with this series. Maybe like we'll just, every few weeks we'll keep adding on, and it'll just be like a year-long thing.
Word.
Crazy.
All right.